The year is 1438. In a village whose name will be erased from maps within a generation, a boy wakes to the sound of his mother screaming. Not the scream of pain or surprise, but something worse. The scream of a woman watching her future die. He's 8 years old. His name is... It doesn't matter. In 6 hours, that name will stop existing. Outside, 3 Ottoman officials sit on horseback, perfectly still, watching the chaos, with the detached interest of men performing a routine task. Behind them, 20 soldiers form a perimeter around the village square. They don't have their weapons drawn. They don't need them. This isn't a battle. It's a harvest. The lead official, a man named Süleyman Çavuş, whose name appears in Ottoman collection records from the 1438 Balkan campaign, dismounts and unfurls a scroll. His voice carries across the square in flawless Turkish, then in broken Serbian. By order of Sultan Murad II, all Christian villages under Ottoman protection must contribute to the blood tax. Boys between the ages of 8 and 18, in good health and sound mind, are to be presented for examination. Families who resist will be marked as rebels. The entire village will suffer the consequences. The boy's mother clutches him so tightly he can feel her heartbeat through her ribs. Her fingers dig into his shoulders like she's trying to press him into her body, to hide him inside her where he was safe once before. But there's nowhere to hide. The officials have ledgers. They know how many boys live in this village. They've known for months. This isn't random. It's administrative. Across the square, another mother is already on her knees, pleading in Serbian. The translator doesn't bother translating. He's heard it 200 times this month. Süleyman Çavuş doesn't even look at her. He nods to a soldier, who gently but firmly removes her hands from her son's arm. The boy, maybe 10 years old, stands frozen, not crying, not resisting, just empty, like he's already gone. This is happening in 200 villages simultaneously. Right now, at this exact moment, across Serbia, Bulgaria, Albania, Greece, 200 Ottoman collection units are performing the same ritual. Mothers screaming, boys standing in lines. Officials with ledgers checking names against quotas. It's not conquest, it's procurement. The Ottoman Empire has perfected something no other empire in history has managed: the systematic transformation of enemy children into loyal weapons. And the genius of it, the thing that makes it so devastatingly effective, is that it works not through force, but through erasure. The boy's father is already dead, killed 3 years ago in a skirmish when the Ottomans first took the region. His older brother is too old for the collection, 16, and already hardened by grief. His younger sister is 4, worthless to the empire. But him, 8 years old, sharp-eyed, quick to learn his letters from the village priest, he's exactly what they're looking for. Süleyman Çavuş walks through the line of boys, examining each one with the clinical precision of a horse trader. He checks teeth, looks at eyes, asks questions in Turkish that the boys don't understand. The translator follows, marking names in the ledger. When he reaches our boy, he pauses, looks him up and down, asks the translator to ask, "Can you count?" The boy nods. "To what number?" The boy, terrified, whispers, 100. Süleyman Çavuş smiles. It's not a cruel smile, it's worse. It's the smile of a man who's just found exactly what he was looking for. A mark goes next to the boy's name in the ledger. His mother sees it. She knows. She makes a sound that's not quite a scream, not quite a sob. It's the sound of a woman watching her son die while he's still breathing. The boy looks back at her. He doesn't understand yet what's happening. He thinks maybe he's in trouble. Maybe if he's good, if he's quiet, he can fix this. Children believe they can fix things. That's what makes this next part so efficient. By noon, 32 boys have been selected from the village. They're lined up in the square, hands bound with rope, not tightly, not cruelly, just securely. Their mothers are held back by a combination of soldiers and their own neighbors, who know that resistance means collective punishment. The boys are given water and bread. They're not mistreated. That comes later, but not in the way you think. The Ottoman Empire doesn't want broken boys. It wants malleable ones, boys who are young enough to forget, smart enough to be useful, and terrified enough to obey. The collection is designed to minimize trauma during transport. Dead boys are worthless. Rebellious boys are expensive to control. But confused, frightened boys who are treated with just enough mercy to create cognitive dissonance, those boys can be rebuilt. Our boy looks back one more time as the column begins to march. His mother is still screaming, but the sound is getting fainter. His older brother stands beside her, fists clenched, tears streaming down his face, watching his little brother disappear down the same road their father's body was carried down 3 years ago. The boy tries to memorize his mother's face, the curve of her cheek, the way her hair falls across her forehead, the exact shade of her eyes. He doesn't know this is the last time he'll ever see her. He doesn't know that in 5 years, he won't be able to remember what she looked like. He doesn't know that in 10 years, he'll try to remember and feel nothing but a vague sense of loss, like missing something he never actually had. Right now, he's just a boy who wants his mother. In 6 months, he'll be something else entirely. But what he became, what these boys became, would terrorize the very families they were stolen from. And to understand how that's possible, you need to see the machine, not the surface-level cruelty, but the architecture underneath. The system that transformed 200,000 Christian boys into the Ottoman Empire's most loyal soldiers over 3.5 centuries, the system called Devshirme. The word itself is Turkish. It means collection or gathering, but the more literal translation is darker, blood tax. Every few years, Ottoman officials would sweep through Christian territories, Balkans, Greece, Anatolia, and collect boys, not as punishment, as policy. It was legal, systematic, recorded in meticulous ledgers that still exist in Turkish archives today. Names, ages, villages of origin, physical descriptions. The Ottomans kept better records of these boys than their own families did. But here's what makes Devshirme different from every other form of military conscription or slavery in history. The boys weren't just soldiers. They became the elite. The Janissaries, the Sultan's personal infantry, were all Devshirme boys, the highest-ranking administrators in the empire, the Grand Viziers, who essentially ran the government. Many of them were Devshirme boys. Stolen Christian children rose to command Muslim armies, to shape Ottoman policy, to become wealthier and more powerful than any European noble of equivalent birth. And that's the genius. That's the trap. Because you can't reduce this to a simple story of oppression. These boys were given education, wealth, status, power. They lived better lives, by any material measure, than they ever would have in their birth villages. Some of them sent money back to their Christian families. Some used their positions to protect Christian communities, but they did it as Ottomans, as Muslims, as men who had forgotten their original names. The question that haunts this story isn't whether the system was cruel. It was. The question is, why did it work so well? Why didn't these boys rebel? Why didn't they escape? Why did generation after generation of stolen Christian children become the empire's most fanatically loyal servants? And the answer is as brilliant as it is terrifying, because the Ottomans understood something about human psychology that wouldn't be formally studied until the 20th century. They understood that identity is not fixed, it's constructed. And if you catch someone young enough, if you control every aspect of their environment, if you give them a new family, a new purpose, a new name, a new God, they won't just obey you. They'll believe you, they'll love you, they'll kill for you, and they'll do it to children who look exactly like they once did. Our boy, walking in that column of 32 children, doesn't know any of this yet. He's thinking about his mother, about his village, about whether he'll see them again. The answer is no, but he doesn't know that, and by the time he realizes it, he won't want to anymore. The column marches for 3 days before reaching the first staging area. The boys sleep on the ground, huddled together for warmth. Some of them cry at night, some pray. Our boy does both. On the second night, one of the older boys, maybe 14, tries to run. He makes it about 100 yards before 2 soldiers on horseback catch him. They don't hurt him. They bring him back, sit him down, give him water, and explain very calmly through the translator, if you run, we find you. If we don't find you, we punish everyone else, your friends. Your brothers here, they will suffer for your choice. Do you understand? The boy nods. He doesn't try again. None of them do. Because the Ottomans have just taught them the first lesson of their new life. You are not an individual anymore. You are part of a collective. Your actions have consequences for everyone. Your pain is their pain. Their pain is your responsibility. This is how you build unit cohesion before the boys even understand what a unit is. At the staging area, a fort on the edge of Ottoman territory, the boys are examined more thoroughly. Physicians check for diseases, deformities, signs of chronic illness. Boys who fail the medical examination are sent back, not out of mercy, but because unhealthy boys are expensive to train and likely to die. The Ottoman system is efficient. Wasteful cruelty doesn't serve the empire. Calculated cruelty does. Our boy passes. Of course he does. He's young, healthy, smart. Exactly what they want. He's marked in a new ledger, this one maintained by the provincial administration. His village name is recorded, but it's already starting to matter less. He's being catalogued by age, physical traits, aptitude. He's becoming a number, a resource, a potential. They spend a week at the staging area, while officials wait for other collection units to arrive. By the time they leave, there are 300 boys. 300 children from 300 different villages, speaking a dozen different dialects, united only by their terror and confusion. The Ottomans group them deliberately, mixing villages so no boy has more than one or two others from his home, can't let them form regional loyalties. Can't let them build a sense of us versus them based on their old identities. They need to build new identities, Ottoman identities. The march to Istanbul takes 6 weeks. The boys walk an average of 12 miles a day. They're fed adequately, not generously, just enough to keep them functional. The pace is brutal for children, but not impossible. The weak ones start to fall behind after the first week. 2 boys die of fever. 1 breaks his leg and is left at a monastery with a small payment for his care. He'll never see the capital. The others will never know what happened to him. Our boy survives. He's always been tough. Had to be. Growing up in a village where winter killed the weak and summers barely grew enough food. He learns to keep his head down, to follow instructions, to not stand out. But he's watching. Always watching. He sees how the officials treat the boys who cry versus the boys who stay silent. He sees which boys get extra rations and which don't. He's learning the rules of a game he doesn't fully understand yet. Around week 3, something shifts. The boys stop crying as much at night. They start forming bonds. Small groups of 2 or 3 who walk together, share food, watch each other's backs. It's not friendship exactly. It's survival instinct. But the Ottomans allow it, encourage it, even. Because boys who bond to each other are boys who won't bond as strongly to their memories of home. They're building new families. That's the point. Our boy bonds with 2 others. One is a Greek boy, maybe 9, who barely speaks Serbian. The other is Albanian, 10 years old, who saw his entire family killed in a raid before being collected. The 3 of them don't share a language, but they share something deeper. The understanding that the old world is gone, and this, whatever this is what they have now. By the time they see the walls of Istanbul rising on the horizon, our boy realizes something that will save his life. The soldiers aren't guarding them to keep them from escaping. They're guarding them to keep them alive. Because these boys are valuable. More valuable than gold, more valuable than land. These boys are the future of the empire. And empires don't waste their futures. Istanbul in 1438 is the largest city most of these boys will ever see. The walls seem to stretch forever. The domes of mosques glitter in the sunlight. The sound of the call to prayer echoes across the city 5 times a day, a sound none of them have ever heard before. It should be beautiful. To the boys, it sounds like a countdown, like something ending. They're taken to the Olan barracks, the training grounds for new recruits. It's a massive complex on the outskirts of the city, part military camp, part school, part prison. Hundreds of boys are already there, at various stages of training. Some have been there for months, some for years. They look at the new arrivals with a mixture of pity and something darker. Recognition, maybe, or memory. The officials separate the boys into groups based on age and perceived aptitude. Our boy, 8 years old and sharp-eyed, is placed in the youngest tier, the boys who might become janissaries, the elite. The ones who will be trained the longest, broken the most thoroughly, and rebuilt into something that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. Christian-born Muslim warriors who will fight harder for the Sultan than any soldier born into the faith. But before any of that can happen, before the training and education and military conditioning, there's something else. Something that has to happen in the first 72 hours, or the whole system fails. The officials call it tahrir. Transformation. The boys will learn to call it something else. The older ones, the ones who've survived it, have a different word. They call it ölüm, death. Not physical death. That would be wasteful. This is something more precise, more permanent. What happens in the next 72 hours will determine whether these boys become janissaries or failures. Whether they forget their mothers' faces or spend the rest of their lives haunted by them. Whether they become the empire's greatest weapon or its most dangerous vulnerability. Our boy stands in the courtyard of the Olan barracks, surrounded by 300 other terrified children, and watches as the gates close behind him. The sound of those gates, iron on stone, is the last sound of his old life. Everything after this is something new, something that doesn't have a name in the language he was born speaking. An official steps forward. He's Turkish, dressed in fine robes, carrying a ledger. He speaks, and a translator follows, rendering his words into Serbian, Greek, Albanian, Armenian. But even without translation, every boy understands. They can hear it in his voice, the certainty, the absolute confidence of a man describing an inevitable process. You are no longer who you were. The villages you came from no longer exist for you. The names you were given no longer belong to you. Your families released you to the service of the Sultan, and in his mercy, He has chosen you for greatness. You will be educated, trained, given purpose. But first, you must be cleansed of the past. This is not a punishment. This is a gift. The greatest gift you will ever receive. The chance to become more than you were born to be. Our boy doesn't understand most of it, but he understands enough. He looks at the other boys around him, sees his own fear reflected in 30 different faces, and then he hears it. A sound so soft it's almost not there. The Albanian boy beside him, the one who watched his family die, is whispering something. It takes our boy a moment to recognize it. A prayer, in Albanian, to a Christian god. The translator hears it too. He walks over, calmly, no anger on his face. He crouches down so he's eye level with the Albanian boy. And he says, very gently, that language is over now. That God is not here. Do you understand? The Albanian boy nods, stops praying, but our boy sees his lips still moving, silent now, defiant in the only way an 8-year-old knows how to be. And our boy thinks, that's brave. That's what I should do. That's how you resist. 3 days later, the Albanian boy is gone. Our boy never learns what happened to him. No one does. But everyone understands the lesson. Resistance is not punished. It's erased. And in 72 hours, every boy in this courtyard will understand exactly what that means. The examination happens at dawn, because everything in the Ottoman military happens at dawn. Discipline, they'll learn, is about rhythm, about breaking the human need for comfort and replacing it with routine. But right now, standing in the cold courtyard as the sun bleeds light across the walls of the barracks, the boys just know they're freezing. 300 children, arranged in rows of 20. Ottoman officials move through the lines with the methodical precision of men who've done this thousands of times. They're not soldiers. They're something worse. Bureaucrats. Men who understand that empires aren't built with swords, they're built with systems. And the Devshirme system requires precision at every stage. Our boy stands in the third row, trying to make himself invisible. It's a skill he learned in his village, where being noticed usually meant more work or less food. But here, invisibility is impossible. Every boy will be examined. Every boy will be measured, tested, evaluated, and every boy will be sorted into one of 3 categories that will determine the rest of his life. The first official who approaches is a physician. He carries no instruments, just his hands and his experience. He checks eyes for clarity, signs of disease, looks at teeth for malnutrition, runs fingers along spines checking for curvature, feels lymph nodes for swelling. The boys stand silent, trembling, while strange hands probe their bodies like livestock at market. The physician pauses in front of our boy, looks him over with the expression of a man evaluating a horse, opens his mouth, checks his teeth, runs a thumb across a small scar on his forearm from a childhood accident, makes a note in his ledger, moves on. The whole examination takes maybe 45 seconds. 45 seconds to determine whether a human life continues or ends in this system. Behind the physician comes a different kind of evaluator. He's younger, dressed not in official robes but in simple military attire, a janissary, though the boys don't know the word yet. He looks at them with an expression that's not quite sympathy, not quite contempt, something closer to recognition. He was one of them once, maybe 10 years ago. He remembers this courtyard, these terrified faces, the cold. He stops in front of a Greek boy 2 rows ahead, stares at him for a long moment, then asks a question in Turkish. The boy doesn't understand. The janissary repeats it. Still nothing. He switches to Greek, asks the same question. If I gave you a knife and told you to kill the boy beside you, would you? The Greek boy's eyes go wide. He looks at the boy beside him, a Serbian child he's barely spoken to, looks back at the janissary, shakes his head. No, the janissary nods, makes a mark in his own ledger, and moves on. 2 boys later, he asks a different question, this time in Serbian. Do you dream? The boy, confused, nods. Yes, everyone dreams. The janissary. What do you dream about? The boy hesitates. Then, quietly, home. My mother. Another mark in the ledger. The janissary's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his eyes. A flicker of something. Memory, maybe. Or pity. He moves on. When he reaches our boy, he stops, looks down. Our boy is shorter than most of the others, younger, but his eyes are sharp, alert, watching everything. The janissary notices. He crouches down so they're eye level, asks in Serbian, are you afraid? Our boy considers lying, but something in the janissary's face tells him lies won't work here, so he nods. Yes, I'm afraid. Good, the janissary says. Fear means you're smart. Stupidity is what kills boys here, not fear. He pauses, then asks another question. Can you read? Our boy nods again. The village priest taught him letters, basic reading, nothing fancy, but more than most peasant children ever learn. The janissary's expression shifts, not quite a smile, but close. He makes a mark in his ledger, not the same mark he made for the other boys, a different symbol. And our boy realizes with a sinking feeling that being smart might not be the advantage he thought it was. The janissary moves on, but our boy feels eyes on him. One of the officials, an older man with a long beard and elaborate robes, is watching him from across the courtyard. He says something to another official, who nods and makes a note in yet another ledger. Our boy doesn't know it yet, but he's just been flagged, marked as high potential, which means his path will be longer, harder, and infinitely more thorough than the boys marked as labor or basic infantry. By midday, the examination is complete. The officials confer, comparing ledgers, making final determinations. The boys stand in the sun, hungry, thirsty, waiting. Some of them are swaying on their feet. One collapses from exhaustion and is carried to the side, given water, examined by the physician again. He's marked as weak. His fate is already sealed. Finally, an official steps forward. He's the most senior one present, his robes embroidered with gold thread, his bearing radiating authority. He speaks in Turkish, and 3 translators echo him in Serbian, Greek, and Albanian, cascading translations that turn one voice into 4. You have been examined. You have been found worthy. Now you will be sorted according to the Sultan's need and your own capacity. Some of you will serve in the palace, learning administration and governance. Some will be trained for military service in the auxiliary corps, and some, he pauses, lets the word hang in the air. Some of you have been chosen for the highest honor, training as janissaries, the Sultan's own guard. The smartest ones. That's what he means but doesn't say. The boys who can read, who answered questions with intelligence, who showed the psychological traits the janissaries are looking for. Those are the boys marked for the most intensive training, the longest indoctrination, the most complete transformation. They call names. Well, not names exactly. They call descriptions. Serbian boy, 8 years, scar on left forearm. Our boy steps forward. He's directed to a different section of the courtyard. 23 other boys join him, all of them young, all of them marked as intelligent. All of them, though they don't know it yet, sentenced to something more thorough than their peers will endure. The remaining boys are divided into 2 other groups. The largest group, maybe 200 of them, will become auxiliary soldiers or laborers. They'll be trained, but not educated. Used, but not elevated. The smallest group, 30 boys, are marked for palace service. They'll learn administration, languages, court protocol. Some might rise to positions of power if they're lucky and ruthless, but they won't be warriors. The 24 boys in our boys group, the ones marked for janissary training, are the Empire's true investment. The ones who will receive years of education, military conditioning, religious instruction, and psychological reshaping. The ones who will become the core of Ottoman military power, and the ones who will have to forget the most completely who they once were. But all of that comes later. Right now, they're just children being divided into categories they don't understand by men speaking a language they barely know. Our boy looks at the other 23 boys around him, tries to find something in their faces that explains why they were chosen over the others. Some look terrified, some look defiant. Some just look empty, like they've already given up. One boy catches his attention, older, maybe 12, with dark eyes and a stillness that's unnatural for a child. He's not crying, not shaking, not looking around frantically like the others. He's just waiting, like he already knows what's coming and has accepted it. Our boy will learn his name eventually, Mehmed, not his birth name. He was given that name 2 years ago, during his first processing. He's a veteran now, being recycled through training because he showed promise but also resistance. They're breaking him again, more thoroughly this time. Mehmed notices our boy staring. Their eyes meet, and Mehmed does something unexpected. He smiles, not a friendly smile, a warning, the kind of smile that says, "You think you're afraid now?" Wait. The officials lead the 3 groups to different parts of the barracks complex. Our boys' group, the janissary candidates, are taken to the most isolated section. Stone buildings with small windows, dormitories that feel more like cells, a courtyard surrounded by walls too high to see over. This is where boys become weapons, where identity goes to die. They're given their first meal as Ottoman property: bread, lentil soup, water. It's more food than most of them have seen in weeks, but nobody eats much. Their stomachs are knotted with fear. The officials don't care. Eat or don't eat. Starve yourself if you want. The training begins tomorrow either way. That night, locked in their dormitory, 24 boys huddle on thin mattresses and whisper in languages that will soon be forbidden. Our boy lies on his back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of children crying. He thinks about his mother, tries to picture her face. It's already getting harder. The details are fuzzing. Was her hair darker or lighter? Were her eyes brown or hazel? He can't remember. It's only been 6 weeks, but memory is a fragile thing when you're 8 years old and the world has been torn away. Beside him, another boy is praying, whispering the Lord's Prayer in Serbian. Our boy knows he should join in, should pray too, but the words feel wrong in his mouth. Like speaking them here, in this place, is admitting something he's not ready to admit yet, that he needs God's help, because human help is not coming. Across the room, Mehmed, the older boy, sits with his back against the wall, watching the others, not sleeping, just watching. Our boy catches his eye again. Mehmed gestures slightly with his head. Come here. Our boy hesitates, then crosses the room, careful not to step on the other boys. Mehmed speaks in low Serbian, barely a whisper. How old are you? 8. You can read? Yes. Mehmed nods. That's why you're here. With us. The smart ones. He says it without any trace of pride or bitterness. Just fact. You know what that means? Our boy shakes his head. It means they'll spend more time on you, break you more carefully. The boys in the other groups, they'll get beaten into shape. Basic training. But us? We're too valuable to break stupidly. They'll break us precisely, psychologically. You'll wish they'd just beaten you instead. Our boy stares at him. Why are you telling me this? Mehmed shrugs. Because someone told me, 2 years ago, and it didn't help. But at least I knew. He pauses. They're going to take your name tomorrow, give you a new one. When they do, don't fight it. Don't try to hold on to the old one. That's what I did. That's why I'm still here. The boys who let go faster, they suffer less. Suffer. Quote, I don't want to let go. I know. Mehmed's expression softens. Just slightly. Nobody does. But you will. Everyone does. The only choice you have is whether it happens fast or slow. Fast hurts less. Our boy wants to argue, wants to say he's stronger than that he'll remember. But looking at Mehmed, at this 12-year-old who's been through this before, who's sitting here 2 years later still stuck in training because he resisted, our boy understands something. Resistance doesn't set you free. It just makes the cage smaller. He goes back to his mattress, lies down, closes his eyes, and for the first time since he was taken from his village, he doesn't cry, because Mehmed is right. Crying won't help. Praying won't help. Remembering won't help. The only thing that will help is surviving. And survival, here, requires becoming something else. Tomorrow, they'll begin the process the Ottomans call tahrir, transformation. But the older boys, the ones who've survived it, have other names for it. The forgetting, the remaking, the death of who you were. It's not violent. It's not even physically painful, mostly. It's just thorough, systematic. Designed by people who understand that the human mind is malleable, especially when it's young and afraid and completely isolated from everything it once knew. Our boy doesn't sleep that night. None of them really do. They lie in the dark, listening to each other breathe, feeling the weight of what's coming. And in the morning, when the guards unlock the doors and sunlight streams into the dormitory, 24 boys stand up and walk towards something that doesn't have a name in any language they speak. But before the transformation can begin, before the names and languages and identities can be stripped away, there's something else, something the officials need to know. Because not every boy is suitable for Janissary service. Intelligence isn't enough. Obedience isn't enough. They need something deeper, something that can't be taught or faked. They need to know which boys can kill. The courtyard has been prepared overnight. A wooden post stands in the center, about 8 feet tall. Ropes dangle from it. The 24 boys are led outside and arranged in a semicircle around the post. They stand in the cold morning air, breath misting, waiting. The officials arrive, the senior Janissaries, the trainers who'll shape these boys over the next several years. They're not smiling. This isn't entertainment. It's assessment. A door opens on the far side of the courtyard. 2 guards emerge, dragging a man between them. He's Ottoman, middle-aged, dressed in rags. His face is bruised. His wrists are bound. They tie him to the post, facing the boys. He doesn't struggle, doesn't plead, just hangs there, waiting for whatever comes next. An official steps forward, explains in Turkish, then Serbian, then Greek. This man is a thief. He stole from the Sultan's stores. The penalty for theft is death. But the Sultan, in his mercy, has decreed that his death will serve a purpose. It will teach you a lesson. The official produces a knife. Not a sword, not an executioner's blade, just a simple knife, the kind used for cutting meat or rope. He holds it up, so all 24 boys can see it. Then he makes the offer that will separate the boys who become janissaries from the boys who fail out of training before it even begins. Who among you will serve the Sultan's justice? Silence. 24 terrified children staring at a knife and a condemned man, and understanding, in the way children understand things without words, that this is the test. This is where boys who hesitate get sorted into different categories, less valuable categories. Our boy's heart is hammering. His hands are shaking. He's 8 years old. He's never held a weapon, never seen a man killed, never imagined he'd be asked to do violence himself. This can't be real. This has to be some kind of trick, some kind of psychological game. They wouldn't actually ask children to. Mehmed steps forward. He doesn't run, doesn't shout, just walks calmly across the courtyard, takes the knife from the official's hand, and stands in front of the condemned man. The man looks at him, at this 12-year-old boy with dead eyes and steady hands, and the man smiles, sad, pitying, like he understands something about Mehmed that Mehmed doesn't understand about himself yet. Mehmed doesn't hesitate. The knife goes in just below the ribs, angled up toward the heart, exactly the way he's been trained. The man gasps. Blood spreads across his shirt. Mehmed withdraws the knife, steps back, and hands it to the official. The whole thing takes maybe 5 seconds. Clean, efficient, emotionless. The man slumps against the ropes. Not dead yet, but dying. The official nods approvingly, makes a mark in his ledger next to Mehmed's name. Mehmed walks back to the line of boys and stands in his place. Blood on his hands, expression unchanged. Several boys are crying. One is vomiting. Our boy is frozen, unable to process what he just saw. The official speaks again. Who else will serve? This time, 3 boys step forward. Older ones, 13 or 14. They're given the knife in turn. The man is already dying, but each boy takes his turn anyway, proving something, demonstrating capacity. By the time the 3rd boy is finished, the man is dead, slumped against the post, blood pooling at the base. Good, the official says. You 4 have shown the willingness required for service. You will advance in training. He looks at the remaining 20 boys. The rest of you will have your opportunity. But know this, hesitation is a weakness. Mercy is a luxury. The Sultan needs soldiers who serve without question. That is what you will become. They leave the body on the post all day. A reminder, a promise. The boys train in sight of it, eat their meals in sight of it, and that night, when they're locked in their dormitory again, they can still see it through the small window, silhouetted against the darkening sky. Our boy lies on his mattress, trembling, not from cold, from understanding. The Empire doesn't want soldiers. It wants something more complete. Something that will do anything, believe anything, become anything. And they're going to create that thing from 8-year-old boys who still remember what their mother's voices sounded like. But what he doesn't understand yet, what none of them understand, is that the knife test wasn't really about violence. It was about identity. Mehmed didn't kill that man because he was cruel or brave. He killed him because he'd already crossed a threshold the other boys hadn't reached yet. He'd already accepted that the person he was born as was gone, that the only survival was forward, into whatever the Empire wanted him to become. The boys who stepped forward weren't the strongest or the cruelest. They were the ones who'd already begun to let go, to forget, to transform. And the boys who hesitated, they weren't being punished. They were being given more time, more breaking, more careful, systematic erosion of resistance, until they, too, would step forward when asked. Because the Ottoman system isn't about forcing boys to be violent. It's about making them want to be, making violence feel like service, making obedience feel like purpose, making the erasure of their old selves feel like liberation. That's what happens in the first 72 hours. That's the machinery beneath the cruelty. And our boy, lying in the dark, listening to 23 other children breathe, is just beginning to feel its gears start to turn. Tomorrow, they take his name. The day after, his language. The day after that, his God. And piece by piece, week by week, year by year, they'll take everything else until there's nothing left but what the Empire built in its place. But the question that will haunt him for the rest of his life, the question that eventually breaks men who survive this system, isn't whether they took enough. It's whether they took everything. Whether anything survived the transformation. Whether the boy who walked into these barracks still exists somewhere, buried deep, or whether he really did die here, and what came out was something else entirely. Something that just looked like him. He closes his eyes, tries one more time to picture his mother's face. The details are even fuzzier now. He's forgetting faster than he thought possible. Mehmed was right. The only choice is how fast it happens, and every day he resists is a day of suffering that changes nothing. So he makes a decision, not consciously, not in words, but somewhere in the exhausted, terrified space of his 8-year-old mind, he decides to stop fighting, to let it happen, to survive by disappearing. By morning, he's already different, not transformed, not yet, but willing. And willingness is all the Empire needs. The rest is just time. Section 3. The Breaking. They come for the names at dawn on the third day. 24 boys stand in formation in the courtyard, backs straight, hands at their sides. They've learned to stand this way in just 48 hours. Not through violence, but through repetition. Stand wrong, do it again. Stand wrong, do it again. Stand wrong, do it again. By the second day, their bodies remember the position without their minds having to think about it. That's the point. Train the body first. The mind follows. An official walks down the line with his ledger, the same one that's been tracking these boys since their villages. But today, he's not reading from it. He's writing in a new one. A blank book with fresh pages. The old ledger stays open beside it. A reference. But what matters now is the new one. The one that will define who these boys become. He stops in front of the first boy, a Serbian child, 10 years old, collected from a village near Belgrade. The official asks a question in Turkish. The boy doesn't understand. The translator steps forward. What is your name? The boy hesitates, looks at the other boys, looks at the translator, finally says it. Marco. Sen. The official nods, makes a note in the old ledger, then he speaks, and the translator renders it into Serbian. That name belonged to a boy in a village that no longer concerns you. That boy is gone. You are here. You are becoming something new. Your name is now Hassan. The boy, Marco, who is now Hassan, stares at him. But that's not my name. It is now. I don't want. The official raises a hand. Not threatening, just stopping the conversation. This is not a negotiation. Your name is Hassan. When you are called, you will answer. When you introduce yourself, you will say, Hassan. The other name is finished. Do you understand? The boy, Marco, Hassan, whoever he is now, nods slowly. The official makes a mark in the new ledger, moves to the next boy. This one is Greek, 9 years old. Your name is Mehmed. Next, Albanian, 12 years old. Your name is Suleiman. Next, Serbian, 8 years old. Your name is Mustafa. It takes less than 20 minutes to rename all 24 boys. Turkish names, Muslim names, names that sever them from their Christian past. Some boys cry, some protest. It doesn't matter. The official continues down the line, calm and methodical, writing new identities into existence with each stroke of his pen. When he reaches our boy, he pauses, looks at the old ledger, looks at the boy. Our boy is small, quiet, hasn't caused any trouble, showed fear during the knife test but didn't break. Intelligence markers high, psychological profile promising. The official considers for a moment, then writes, Your name is Ibrahim. Ibrahim, Abraham in Turkish, the father of nations, the father of faith, a name heavy with meaning in both the religion he was born into and the religion he's being forced into. The official doesn't explain this. Doesn't need to. The irony will become clear over time. Our boy, who was born with a Serbian name he'll forget within a year, who is now Ibrahim, nods. He doesn't cry, doesn't protest. Mehmed's advice from 2 nights ago is still echoing in his head. The boys who let go faster suffer less, so he lets go, or pretends to. He's not sure there's a difference anymore. The official closes the ledger, the old one with the Serbian and Greek and Albanian names. He hands it to an assistant, who carries it away. Our boy, Ibrahim, watches it disappear through a doorway. Wonders if anyone will ever read those names again. Wonders if they still exist if no one speaks them. But the names are just the beginning. Names are abstract. You can give someone a new name, and they can still think in their old language, pray to their old god, remember their old life. The Ottomans understand this, which is why the next step is more invasive, more permanent. That afternoon, the boys are taken to a different courtyard, smaller, more private. Inside, a group of men wait, not soldiers, religious officials, imams, teachers, men whose job is not to break bodies but to reshape souls. They smile when the boys enter, warm, welcoming, like uncles greeting nephews. The head imam, an older man with a white beard and kind eyes, speaks through the translator. You are entering a new life, a life of purpose and service. But to serve the Sultan properly, you must understand his faith. You must understand Islam, not as foreigners, not as slaves, but as believers, as brothers. He gestures to a mat on the ground. Come, sit, let us teach you. The boys hesitate. Then slowly, they sit, cross-legged on the mats, arranged in a semicircle around the Imam. He begins to speak, not in Turkish, but in Arabic, the language of the Quran, the language of prayer. The translator follows, rendering each phrase into Serbian, Greek, Albanian. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. He repeats it, slowly, patiently. The boys just stare. Some of them are still processing the name change. Now, they're being asked to recite words that contradict everything they were taught since birth. Words that, in their villages, would have gotten them beaten or worse. The Imam's smile doesn't fade. I know this is strange to you. I know you were taught different words in different languages, but those teachings were incomplete. Here, you will learn the complete truth, and once you understand, you will see that this is not a betrayal, it is a homecoming. One of the Greek boys, now renamed Ahmed, raises his hand. What if we don't want to learn? The Imam's expression shifts, still kind, but firmer now. That is not a choice you have. You belong to the Sultan. The Sultan is Muslim. His soldiers must be Muslim. His servants must be Muslim. You will learn these words. You will speak them. You will believe them. Not today, perhaps. Not tomorrow. But you will, because there is no other path forward. He's not wrong. The boys understand this intuitively, even if they can't articulate it. They're in a foreign city, surrounded by people who speak a language they don't know, cut off from everything familiar. Their only hope of survival is adaptation. And adaptation, here, means conversion. The Imam spends the next 2 hours teaching them the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. He repeats it over and over until even the youngest boys can recite it phonetically. They don't understand what they're saying, not really, but their mouths are learning the shape of Arabic words. Their ears are getting used to the rhythm. Their minds are being prepared for what comes next. Ibrahim, our boy, sits in the back of the group and mouths the words silently. La ilaha illallah. There is no God but God. But in his head, he's praying in Serbian, the Lord's Prayer, trying to hold on to something, trying to keep one piece of his old self alive. He doesn't realize that this exact internal resistance is what the system is designed to exhaust. Not through force, but through repetition. Say the new words enough times and eventually your mind stops fighting. Eventually, the new words become automatic. And once they're automatic, they start to feel true. That night, locked in their dormitory, the boys whisper to each other in their native languages, comparing new names, repeating the Arabic phrases they learned, mocking them, trying to strip them of power. But even as they mock, they're practicing. Even as they resist, they're learning. Mehmed, the older boy who's been through this before, sits apart from the others. Ibrahim notices and joins him. Mehmed looks at him with those dead eyes and says very quietly, "Stop praying in Serbian. How did you... I can see your lips moving during the lessons. You're still praying to your old God." Mehmed's expression is unreadable. Stop. They're watching for that. The boys who keep praying in their old language take longer to break. They get special attention. You don't want special attention. I need to remember. No. Mehmed's voice is sharp now. Urgent. You need to forget. That's the only way out. I tried to remember. I tried to hold on to who I was. You know where it got me? 2 years in this place. 2 years of breaking. And I still broke. Everyone breaks. The only difference is how much you suffer first. Ibrahim looks at this 12-year-old boy who talks like a man, who killed without hesitation, who's warning him with the authority of someone who's lived through hell. What was your name? Your real name? Mehmed's jaw tightens. For a moment, something flickers across his face. Pain. Loss. Then it's gone. I don't remember. He says it flatly, matter of fact. But Ibrahim sees his hands clench, sees the lie. Mehmed remembers. He just wishes he didn't. On the 4th day, the language prohibition begins. The boys are assembled in the courtyard. A different official stands before them. Younger, a janissary officer, maybe 25 years old. He speaks only in Turkish. No translator. Just Turkish words flowing over the boys like water over stones, comprehensible only in their tone and rhythm. He points to objects and names them in Turkish. Chair, table, bread, water. He repeats each word 3 times, slowly, making the boys repeat after him. They stumble through the pronunciations. Turkish is not like Serbian or Greek or Albanian. The sounds are different. The grammar is alien, but they try, because trying is safer than refusing. Then the officer says something else. This time, the translator steps forward. From this moment, you are forbidden to speak your birth languages. You will speak only Turkish. If you are heard speaking Serbian, Greek, or Albanian, you will be punished. Not severely, just enough to teach you. This is for your benefit. The faster you learn Turkish, the faster you advance. The faster you advance, the easier your life becomes. The boys stare. Several of them start to protest, but the officer raises a hand. I understand this is difficult, so for today, we will be lenient. But starting tomorrow, the prohibition is absolute. Use today to say goodbye to those languages. After today, they are finished. The boys spend the rest of the day in clusters, speaking frantically in Serbian, Greek, Albanian, trying to squeeze years of conversation into a few hours. Trying to say everything they might need to say before the door closes, Ibrahim finds himself in a group of Serbian boys, and they talk about home, about families, about food their mothers made, about saints' days, and harvest festivals and winters, when the snow was so high you had to tunnel out of your house. But even as they talk, Ibrahim notices something. He's running out of words, not because he's forgotten them, but because the memories attached to them are fading. He knows the Serbian word for mother, but he can't quite picture his mother's face anymore. He knows the word for home, but the details of his home are getting fuzzy. The language is becoming abstract, disconnected from the things it's supposed to represent. By sunset, the conversations have died down. The boys sit in silence, exhausted from trying to hold on to something that's already slipping away. And when the guards lock them in the dormitory that night, nobody speaks. Not in Serbian, not in Greek, not in Albanian, not because they're obedient, because they have nothing left to say.